You're listening to the Raising Family Podcast with your hosts, David Steele and Linda Hill. Brought to you by thefamilyproclamation.org.
Hello and welcome to the Raising Family Podcast. I'm David Steele, your host, along with Linda Hill, our co-host. And today we have with us Olivia Jewell.
Yes. Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. You guys are just a fun bunch. I'm excited to be part of this.
And we are very excited to have you talk to us about a very special project that you're working on. But before we do that, we always like to talk about a certain paragraph in the Family Proclamation. And today we're focusing on paragraph 2. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it. So you know what we're talking about here today. All human beings, male and female, are created in the image of God. Each is a beloved spirit, son or daughter of heavenly parents. And as such, each has a divine nature and destiny. Gender is an essential characteristic of individual, premortal, mortal, and eternal identity and purpose. And then, real quick, we wanted to talk about an invitation before we get into this special project that Olivia is doing. And there's a quote here by President Nelson, and it has to do with millennials. So I'm going to turn it over to a millennial over here, David, our resident millennial, to read this quote.
Yeah, I love being a millennial, so this will be perfect. Okay. This comes from President Nelson. I think she already said that. The term millennial is perfect for you if that term reminds you of who you really are and what your purpose in life really is. A true millennial is one who was taught and did teach the gospel of Jesus Christ premortally and who made covenants with our Heavenly Father there about courageous things, even morally courageous things, that you would do while here on earth. A true millennial is a man or woman whom God entrusted enough to send to earth during the most compelling dispensation in the history of this world. A true millennial is a man or woman who lives now to help prepare the people of this world for the second coming of Jesus Christ and his millennial reign. Make no mistake about it, you were born to be a true millennial. Wow.
Good stuff.
Isn't that good stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. And to continue on. So I guess the question is, how can you stand and live as a true millennial? And our guest today, Olivia, is a great example of this. And we just want to thank her for being here. So maybe just to start us off, just tell us what you're doing.
Well, I have to take one pause. I am a millennial. I just need to note that. I am the first year of millennials. So I actually really fit this. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm excited.
Perfect.
And to go along with that, I don't even think that I am.
Oh, really?
Am
you
I?
are.
Are you younger?
I think you're at the end of that.
Maybe I'm right at the end.
You are right at
What
the
year,
end.
do you dare say? What year you were born?
I was born in 93.
93.
He's right at the end.
Yeah, I think because I'm 84, so I think it's like 10 years, right?
Yep.
Oh,
So
sweet.
yeah, and it's funny because most people my age kind of like shirk it, like they're like, oh, they don't want to be millennials because they were like old enough that they didn't appreciate all of, But I am always like the owner of it. I love being a millennial. I think it makes us incredible, and that quote is perfect because I've never read it before, but it is perfect. It is exactly to me like why I feel really like it is an important call, and it makes sense that we were put on earth at this time to do the things that, we needed the technology and the things that we're savvy at.
And it says the youngest millennials are between 20 and 24 and the oldest are coming up on 40.
Yep. That's
so there we go. That's the official internet definition of a millennial.
There you go.
We know the internet. I tell you that right now.
I know.
More than anything.
Yes, you do.
So sorry, I totally sidetracked your question, but I was super excited to hear that quote because I hadn't heard it before. So, okay. Yes, I'm working on a project. It's called the 21-Day Family Connections Experiment. And it has been just kind of the most incredible journey, actually. And basically what it is it's a social experiment where we are trying to measure the psychological benefits of connecting more with your family, both your past family, like your ancestors, and your present family, your living relatives and family in your home. And we have put together a project where we are just trying to make it easy for people to connect. So providing ideas, ways to connect in easy, quick, doable ways, because us millennials and everyone else are really busy now. It's just a busy time of life, a busy time of the world, really, right? And so we've tried to make it easy to do, but then we also have a survey that we have put together with the help of some professionals, and it's informal. It's absolutely informal. I will not say it's scientific, but just to gauge your mood from the beginning to the end and see if you feel better by the end, because all of us previously were family historians or genealogists, and we had experienced the joy that had come from connecting more with our families, and we felt like it was something that the world needed to know about. And so we started to put this together. It kind of is a crazy story, but happened really fast, and here we are, and it's been really cool. The results have been really amazing, and the stories that have come from it have been incredible. So that's what my project is.
So where would we find out more about this project if somebody were interested in participating?
Yes, you could join us. It's connections-experiment.com is our website. And on there, we have everything. We've got evidences that this stuff is real, that there's actual science that shows that there's power to connection. There's also, the survey and the plans. We have 21-day plans because we do the 21 days. That's like what our kind of standard timing is. And there's story behind that too. But basically, connections-experiment.com is your best place source for all the information.
Yeah. And I think, it's kind of cool. The very last little bit of paragraph 2 talks about identity and purpose. And that we each kind of have a purpose. And I know you gave us the brief, the overall, but maybe just tell us a little bit more about how you were led to this, and then how it came to be, how you saw the hand of the Lord in creating connections.
Oh, that is such a big question. Okay, I don't want to take forever, so I'll try to keep it short. But it's interesting because when people have been asking me that, we started this project in April. So 2 weeks before May started, mid-April, I just woke up in the middle of the night. And I had been feeling depressed. I was feeling gross inside. You guys all know, we in Utah, we were in COVID thickness at that point. None of us were allowed to see our friends or our family. We were stuck inside. You could pretty much only go outside to exercise. It was awful. And that is closing in walls, right? Woke up and had this strong impression that I needed to do a couple of things. The first was you need to do the 21-day family history challenge. And I was like, okay, that's something that I had learned. Sister Nilsson had given an address at BYU several years ago, and I had done that challenge multiple times in my life and had experienced some really great benefits from it. It had actually put me on a trajectory for teaching family history at conferences and education week and different things. But the second one was invite all your friends to do it. That was the second part of the impression. And I was like, that makes sense. Cause I had a lot of friends struggling at that time, and we knew it because we'd Zoom and we'd all be desperately just clinging to that adult conversation. And then the third one was the interesting one. And that was measure the psychological benefits. And I was like, what? I am not a scientist. I am far from a scientist. So that was weird to me. But a couple of things that had happened in the recent months before that started to kind of add up in my mind. And I started seeing that the Lord had actually been preparing me. And, at that time, I probably didn't realize it. But now as I look back, I can see so many steps all the way back to when I lived in Virginia, 10 years ago, when he was already preparing me for this. And probably if I thought about it more, it would even be further back. But the point is, felt those impressions. And I was like, I'm just one of those people that's like, okay, I felt an impression. Let's do this, So I woke up and I went and I made phone calls and I reached out, got a psychologist who could help me. I turned around and reached out to a few people that I thought might be excited about it. And literally in less than 2 weeks, we went from idea to launch.
Wow.
It was
fantastic.
Nuts. Yeah, it was nuts. And we had 5,500 people participate that first time from 77 different countries. It was insane.
That's
wow.
Yeah, it was insane. We were just like, what? Because we were expecting maybe 100, you know what I mean, when we started to put it together. But what was super cool, and in answer to your question, was watching the Lord's hand work. Every person that came into that project had been prepared. When we would say, we're going to measure the psychological benefits, they would just be like, oh my gosh. And all of them had stories. Every member of my team has some type of story about how it has helped them psychologically, mentally, their mental overall well-being has been affected by their family history.
Wow. So when you look at the amount of people that participated in that, what does that tell you about the current desire that so many people have to feel connection.
Yeah. I was shocked, of course, but I think that was what was the most telling. And the responses that came in, it was like, I mean, I think everyone was at their breaking point at that point. We'd all been locked in our houses for a couple months. Like that, it tells you a lot about how much we need connection. Yes. It does, like physical touch, social interaction, all of those things. And it can be compared to smoking habits, obesity. Like that's how bad loneliness can be for your physical health. And so as we open up these doors, we're starting to shed light on the fact that, hey, you know, we as members of the church know that it's the spirit of Elijah, and we know that there's like promised blessings associated with it. But as we uncover all of these scientific things, it's like there's like real truth here. And I hope that people can experience that and feel that and try it. You know, to me, it's like if you just come try, you'll feel it. And guess what? It'll help. It'll make you feel better. Right. You know? So, yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I think you did. I think you did. And I'm just curious about this. So when you got that impression that you should do this challenge and then share it with your friends, tell us about how you feel now, not just because of this 21-day challenge, but because of all of the things that you put together, because of you building this connections thing, because of you sharing it with people. I mean, how has that affected your life?
Oh, that's a big question. It has affected it a lot. So doing the original, challenge. So I had started to love family history and genealogy work when I lived in Virginia. I had become the director out there and whatever, right? Then I moved to Utah. I love it. Get this invitation from Sister Nilsson. Her invitation was to a group of overtaxed, overworked, stressed out sisters. Hey, let's do service and do some family history. And I was like, I already like it. I have a testimony of it. I don't need to do that, But what happened was I tried it because it was a good invitation. A friend invited me to do it with her. And I had the most eye-opening experience. It was like, oh, genealogy is way more than names, dates, and charts. It's connecting with my living kids. It's connecting with my mom, with my great aunt who's still alive. It's those connections that are made when I go to their house to scan a photo or to have them share a story with me, And like that, just even as I'm saying that, don't you just like almost feel that in your heart, those experiences? And so that opened my eyes. And as I've done this, you guys, oh my gosh, I wish I could share every participant's experience with you that has shared theirs with me. The stories that have come in, like sometimes I don't even dare share them because they're so sensitive and so personal, but people have had life-changing experiences from connecting with their family, past and present, like both. There's power in both, and there's different science behind both too, which is super cool. So I don't know if that answers your question either.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So like logistically, it sounds like there was a lot that you put together in 2 weeks and it came together quickly. But sometimes I know I'll look at a project or feel some sort of inspiration. And I think, oh my goodness, that's going to take a lot of work. And I don't have that skill set. And sometimes you brush things off because it's scary. It's something a little bit scary. What were you had the initial inspiration, but then you just were directed to who to call or what did you do at that point?
Well, honestly and truthfully, I got the inspiration. So I was hesitant to tell you this, but I'm totally going to anyway. So I totally approached Sister Nilsson one day. And it was kind of embarrassing because I don't try to do those things. But this was a long time ago when I was first teaching at Rich Tech, and she was super sweet. So I had her contact info. So when I first got the inspiration, I actually reached out to her. And I don't know if she'd want me to repeat this, but whatever. It's great counsel. Her counsel was, now is the time for every Latter-day Saint to follow through on every righteous prompting.
So glad you shared that.
I know. And when I read it, it was just completely like, okay. And so that gave me that, and I think sometimes we get that just from our promptings alone. But I think for me, it was like, wow, I'm feeling the spirit. So it must be true. For me, it was what I needed to get me through because it was a huge project. I mean,
it sounds like it.
What it's come from since then, because obviously we threw it together, like incredible people with incredible skills, came into it like all hands on deck, threw in all their work. And the ladies that have worked with me and the dudes too, there's a few of them too. But their heart, every one of them is volunteering. Like we're not making money at this. It's 100%. We like feel so passionately about it and feel that other people need these blessings so much that we have worked our heinies off for like 9 months. And the point is, I think it was so important that we got it up, that we got it running. And here's the answer, I guess, to your question is that every time that I have felt overwhelmed, because obviously it does take a lot away from my family, and there is a lot. You have
4 children under the age of 12, right?
Yes,
that's a lot of 12,
work. And one with special needs. And it's taxing, but for me, it's like when you can go back and remember those moments when the Lord confirmed that you were on the right path. So when I have those moments when it's like, oh, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. I'm not sure this is right because this is really, and I'm having to make those decisions between like, is this the right thing or is this not? Or, do I keep moving forward because it's going to get bigger and am I ready for that? Do I really want to give it more? Whatever. Every time I think back to those confirming, I've had priesthood blessings. I've had friends, isn't it cool how our friends can point out our strengths and help us realize like, oh, if I work on that, if I use that strength for good, then what more can the Lord do with me? And I had just read section 6 of the Doctrine and Covenants, and it's when Oliver Cowdery, and I don't remember the specific details, but the point is he is, getting this revelation, and basically the Lord is like, if you thrust in your sickle, I will open doors for you. Like that was the message that I got out of that. And I just was like, okay, like that's what I need at this time. Like anytime that we start feeling that struggle, that like, am I sure I want to keep going forward? Like we have to trust in those impressions we've gotten. We have to trust in the revelations he's given us. So does that make...
Yeah. Can we go back to the comment?
For sure.
That Sister Nelson gave you, because I was just like, whoa, let's just pause for a second.
Right.
So let's say the comment one more time, because that was powerful.
Oh,
yeah.
Very,
say it with
very
some
powerful,
some slow gusto,
Yeah. And then
I want that to permeate every soul who hears this podcast.
Right. And obviously, I think you were supposed to share that. I think you said you felt that.
My fear is that I don't quote it perfectly again the second time.
Well, it's okay.
But I'll do my best.
Then the thing is, and then after you talk about her comment, let's talk about what you did to follow her advice.
Oh, yeah, because I totally got sidetracked.
Yes. I would love to talk about that and maybe make a list of those things that you did so that we know how we can follow those.
Okay. So when Sister Nelson, when I emailed her, her response to me was, now is the time for every Latter-day Saint to follow through on every righteous prompting they receive.
Oh, so good.
And I was like, all right, let's go. So that was when I turned around and I reached out to, that's when I reached out to the psychologist, who was really incredible. He didn't have a big testimony of family history, but as he joined the project, he had started dabbling in it, and now he's like a complete he won't talk about it scientifically because he's so sold on it that he's like, it's the spirit. And so he's like, from the scientific standpoint, you can't really describe the spirit. And so, I called him, and when he was on board, I was like, okay, so we just kept moving. And basically what I did was I followed the spirit every step of the way. I would literally pray, who should I reach out to? And I got on the Roots Tech ambassador page, and literally, it might sound cheesy, but I went down the list of different people who were ambassadors at Roots Tech. So they love family history, right? Mm-hmm. They're fellow lovers. And I waited for the spirit to tell me yes or no on each one. And I reached out to, and I don't know if I've ever even told them that. So if they listen to this, that'll be the first time they'll hear that.
I would call it almost like a Noah or a Nephi experience in building a boat. Hey, guess what you're going to do today?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then wondering where do I even start? Yeah. I don't have the experience. And,
yes.
And so every step of the way, they also asked the Lord, well, how do I build a boat?
Yeah. I don't know. And do you know what he did? He provided me with all of the tools, like our website girl. She showed up. She was like all in because she had PTSD. that she had dealt with family history. And she put together an incredible website in less than a week. It was incredible.
Wow.
You know, another member of my team that I could not live without suffers with seasonal depression every year at that time of year. And she has told me, like, I got through the whole season and didn't even realize it. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't even realize it hadn't hit because she'd been so focused on bringing this to other people. And I think that takes it back to this paragraph that we're discussing today, divine nature. Like, all of us were prepared. Each of the members of my team, we were prepared with this divine love for our families. We all have this inherent, like, all of us will tell you we were born this way, you know, just loving photos, loving whatever. But we were born with that, and the Lord figured out a way to help us use it to help other people. And that is, I mean, what more could you do, right? Like, isn't that what being a child of God is all about? Isn't that, I don't know. You know, I'm not eloquent in my speech,
doing fantastic.
But yeah, to me, it's like, if we can take our divine nature and use it for good, like, that's the whole body of Christ.
Finding your calling and your purpose. And being able to, I can see from you and hear from you and just the excitement in your voice, how happy this makes you.
It does.
And that's so, how many people are searching for their divine purpose?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, don't we wake up like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now, Heavenly Father? I mean, what am I'm kind of in this stage too with, you know, my kids have all left. I'm at a different stage of life than yours, wondering, okay, that was my goal. I kind of finished that part. Now what?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things, like, let's see if I can make this a complete thought, that one of the things that I feel like, you know, as I think back to the different times when I feel like I'm just now realizing that it's my divine nature. Like, it's not necessarily something I've always been aware of, but now that it's happening, I'm realizing more of it. Right. And I'm seeing the gifts the Lord gave me that uniquely prepared me to be able to, even the friendships I made because of my friendly, outgoing personality, they opened doors that maybe wouldn't have otherwise been open. And those are simple things, right? Those are things you wouldn't necessarily go, oh, I'm going to do great things with that. And I'm not saying I'm doing great things, but I kind of am.
Yeah, you are.
For some people, right? And that's great. And so my point is, I think that it's easy for us to miss and not see what our divine nature is. And I think that's where we can ask our friends and our family, you know, hey, what is it that I do that helps you? Like, how, you know, help me understand what some of my divine gifts are. And that might feel awkward, but I think there's power in it, because where I can look back is when I was in Virginia, we were leaving. There was a sister there who was kind of feisty. I liked her, but I didn't think she liked me. And when we went to leave, she came to me in like almost tears and said, Olivia, I am so sad you're leaving. And I remember looking at her and being like, okay, like, great, you know, I'm sorry. But she said, you made me feel like you like wanted to be my friend. And that I've never felt that from other people, you know, like, but you helped me feel loved, you know? And I looked at her and I was like, okay. And that moment like turned something for me. It, you know, we're all insecure in some ways. And I think we all kind of are careful and whatever. But at that point I changed and I made this decision that I was going to use my friendliness for good. Like, I was going to look at the people who needed the friend and make sure that they felt included. And I've tried to make like a really big point to do that ever since. And that's part of what this project's about too. Like, inviting everyone to come try, like, I love you, come be my friend, come try it. Like, it's, you know, but the point is, what am I trying to draw in? I'm trying to draw in that maybe you don't realize the great skills that you have. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, and this is, you talked about this a little bit, just barely.
Great.
But I think there are hopefully tons of people listening to this, and there will be over the years. And regardless of, you know, if someone listens to this tomorrow or they listen to it in 20 years, there are going to be people that listen to this that think, you know, I can hear the passion in her voice. She has this purpose. She has this identity that she loves. And I don't feel that, but I want to, you know, she had the Lord with her every step of the way, and I want to feel that too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, I mean, and I don't know if you necessarily have an answer for this, but what would you say to people to give them that extra nudge to say, you know what, you do have an identity and purpose, and you can find it just like I found it, and the Lord will help you achieve your goals, you know?
Yes. I love that question. I think that my answer would be, I love Sister Jones. She is my favorite person on earth, I think. She gave that talk in General Conference called Hear Him a couple conferences ago. And I think the key is just being okay with the dirty diapers being like your purpose today and knowing that the Lord's preparing you. He has so much at his disposal and he's going to use you for whatever he needs you for. It's just waiting on the timing of the Lord sometimes. And I promise you there have been, I'm telling you now, I'm just barely going, oh, you're right. This might be part of my divine purpose. Like I haven't realized that. And there's been so many times that I've been like, oh, am I even doing the right thing? You know, it's not like I've been confident 100% of the time. Always hindsight's going to be 20/20. But just listening, I think going back to listening and hearing him every step of the way and just trying to, with each move, pivot to the sound of his voice, pivot to the revelations you're receiving and be open to like, hey, if you tell me to do it, I'll do it. Like that interaction I had with Sister Nelson, I was mortified to go up to her, but I knew I was supposed to do it. Like my husband made fun of me for it. Basketball game. But, you know, I knew I was supposed to. And so I just followed it and I trusted him. And little piece by little piece, he put me where he needed me to do the work that I'm doing.
Oh, you've covered a lot of great things here. And we sort of made a list of the things that you were talking about. That first of all, when you had this impression, you reached out to a team, you went down a list and you were waiting for promptings that told you, yes or no, right? Yeah. Number two, the Lord provided all the tools through the people that he brought to you, right? He knew who he had been preparing. And he let you know when you asked him. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you asked.
Yeah.
All right. Number three, the Lord showed us how we could use our love of something to help others. And I love this. It's how you mentioned it's easy for us to miss our divine natures. So maybe ask those people who know us best, friends and family, what they think our gifts are. And that even though you're not always confident about it, don't expect to be totally 100% confident all the time. Even though you had inspiration, keep going back to that original prompting. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
And then the other one is just, I love this pivot, stay open, be willing. I think it's willing to be malleable, flexible, because the Lord might send you in a different direction. Is there anything else on this list that we missed? Because I think these are things that anybody can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I sound really, really helpful. Thanks for summing that up for me. I had no idea I said all that. So yes. No, honestly, just love the gospel and love the Lord and he'll take care of you. Like going back to section 6, I mean, he tells us if we thrust in our sickle, in the Doctrine and Covenants, I should note. If we thrust in our sickle, if we are willing to do his work, he'll use us. And I think that's what's so great about the gospel, about building the kingdom of God on the earth, is that if we are willing, he will use us. And that's exciting. We can find our divine potential with his help. I mean, what else could be better, right? So that's all I would add is desire to build the kingdom of God, and he'll give you opportunities. I know that because I've experienced it. So desire to build the kingdom of God and go for it.
Wow.
I love it.
And Olivia, thank you so much for taking time. Honestly, this was incredible.
Oh, thanks.
I feel very uplifted, and I know that everybody that's listening will feel that as well. And I think in closing, and we already read this, but I'm going to read that quote again because I can't not read it again. And everybody that's listening, we would invite you, and I know Olivia would invite you to heed this bit of advice.
Yeah.
And go forward in the work. And now is the time for every Latter-day Saint to follow through on every righteous prompting they receive.
Love it.
And that is a good as end as any.
Yeah.
And our family, a lot of times we say, "Oh, she's such a gem." I'm just going to say, "You are such a jewel." Seriously,
I married well for that one, didn't I?
You sparkle, and you just bring so much energy and inspiration. And we just are so grateful for your time. Thank you so much for coming to
Thanks for having
visit
me.
with us today.
This was fun. I'm going to stay after and keep chatting.
Okay.
I'm just
kidding.
Love that.
No, we'll be here for a long time. Sorry you don't get to get in on that, listeners, but maybe we'll do a bonus content. You know what I mean?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Raising Family podcast. This episode was produced by Carol Rice. Our research coordinator is Angela Valentine. Audio was edited and mixed by John Wright. The Raising Family podcast is brought to you by thefamilyproclamation.org.